Stocks trend up again after a rocky day that they had yesterday. We may have a new development in the fish tank cleaner story coming up here. Trump may use various powers in his control to supplement the supply chain for food going around the country. And Joe Biden has yet another gaffe. Plus, we will take some time and look into the UFO story that we skipped yesterday, and we will talk about something that I am thankful for. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. It's happening, people. It really is. And my hair is going to get. It's officially the second longest it's been since I chopped it all off. What was that? 2006, 14 years ago, I chopped it all off. Because I used to have hair down in the middle of my back. Most of you people have seen it by this point here. And it is getting to that point again. I left it a little bit long after I chopped it the first time because I needed to get used to having my hair not move after I shook my head. But yeah, it's getting there. You know, if they keep up like this and they don't let anything open up, I might have to go and get one of those back alley haircuts that they talk about. You know, people are just going to go out and get back alley haircut. Well, it's going to be anything anyway. I looked down and I saw that Do Not Open California is trending out here, and the economy is, they want it to stay closed for, but I mean, in reality, you can keep the economy closed forever, but people are just going to go out and form a back alley economy. Whether you like it or not, they're going to do it. So you might as well just let them do it safely. One of the things, too, that I got off of this as well when I thought about it was with California. First off, South Dakota has stayed open constantly, so people are just going to go and form their businesses over in South Dakota. If California stays closed forever, then they'll just go find another place to do business, which will be funny to see California knocked down from the seventh largest economy in the world. That'll be great. But an interesting take that I heard about was an interesting thing that I thought about, at least. The authoritarians are not afraid right now that there's going to be another resurgence if they open the economy back up. They're not afraid of the new resurgence and the fact that it's going to crash the economy again. They're afraid that it's not. It's something to think about as we go forward. They don't want the economy to get working again before November. They don't want people to go out and start trading and start doing things and just start having fun. And they've been very, very vocal about keeping everything closed. So that's something we got to think about as we move along here. But before we get started, let's head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We've got the generational gap. We've got Ed's World. We've got Stephen Ignoramus. He's been taking a little bit of a hiatus because he wants to get that album out, but go ahead and check him out over there. He's one of the greatest creators that we have on there. We just welcomed Freckles and Britt to the station, and they are doing great things. We've got Wyatt Breckenhoff, who's building himself a little niche out there. We've got the R-rated conservative, who is highly successful, and we were very glad to bring him in. We've got all kinds of different opinions and all kinds of different perspectives on the world. So if you find something that you don't like, we've got another perspective that you might like. So go and check us out over there. We've got our merch over there. Go and check us out. We're looking forward to seeing you and sharing all of our shows with you. So we are going to start, as usual, with Investors Business Daily. Except they have an advertisement up. Dow Jones Futures Google earnings report fuels big tech's coronavirus stock market rally. This is from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures rose solidly versus fair value early Wednesday along with S&P 500 futures and early NASDAQ futures. Google parent Alphabet results lifted Google stock as well as several other big techs. Wow, I can read. Signaling a rebound for growth names and the coronavirus stock market rally. AMD, Dexcom, Akamai Technologies, and Masimo also reported earnings late Tuesday. AMD fell in extended trade on weak sales guidance, but rival Nvidia was little changed. Google stock rallied with fellow FANG stock Facebook, as well as cloud computing rivals Microsoft stock and Amazon.com. Dexcom stock popped, Akamai stock fell, and Masimo stock nudged higher. Boeing reported big Q1 loss early Wednesday while revenue fell more than expected. Boeing will cut commercial jet production widely expected with aircraft demand plunging. BA stock rose modestly. Excuse me. MasterCard also reports Wednesday morning Tesla, Microsoft, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, Teladoc, and Facebook stock on tap Wednesday night. Dexcom stock, AMD stock, and Nvidia stock are on IBD leaderboard, so are Tesla stock, Microsoft stock, and Vertex stock. Massimo and MasterCard are IBD long-term lenders, along with Microsoft. Dow Jones futures rose 0.8% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures climbed 1%. NASDAQ 100 futures advanced 1.35%. Google results are lifting futures, with Google stock and several related titans advancing. Boeing stock is giving boost to Dow and S&P 500 futures. The first quarter GDP report will be released at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. Economists expect a decline from the coronavirus, but the second quarter is likely to show a massive decline. So far, investors are looking ahead to a possible recovery as states and countries start to open up their economies. Always remember that overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading on the regular stock market session. Thank you, Ed Carson, for that. Thank you for that wonderful warning in this. But, I mean, he is right, because we saw everything ticking up yesterday and we wound up being just a little bit lower, just a touch lower than the previous day's close, and not like, what was it, 0.1% lower? It was some ridiculously small number, but yeah, the futures looked like it was going to be super high throughout the day, and then it just kind of tumbled. So we'll see what happens. It's always interesting to watch. Next, we've got CNBC. Dow futures rise more than 100 points. Alphabet leads tech higher. This is from Fred Imbert and Yoon Lee. Stock futures rose Wednesday, led by a sharp gain in Google parent Alphabet as investors looked for guidance from the Federal Reserve on the future path of interest rates with a gradual reopening of the economy in sight. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average were up 160 points, or 0.7%. S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 futures also traded higher. It's interesting to me that the Dow Jones is the benchmark for what the stock market is going to do, and that's the one that they use, because I do remember when I was younger, like in the 90s, the NASDAQ was the big one that they always used. That's what they always said was NASDAQ, 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 and now it's Dow Jones. So I wonder why that change happened. I wasn't really paying attention to stocks until, well, the COVID broke out. But I do wonder why that happened. You get a drink here? Alphabet shares gained 7.7% in the pre-market after the tech giant reported a revenue growth decline that was less steep than the forecast. The company's YouTube ad revenues also beat expectations. Those gains lifted sentiment around other mega-cap stocks such as Facebook, which climbed 3.8% before the bell. Amazon gained 1.5%, while Apple and Netflix were both up at least 0.5%. All eyes will be on the Fed's monetary policy decision at 2 p.m. Wednesday. That is Eastern Time. Investors will look to the central bank statements and Chairman Jerome Powell's virtual press conference for clues about how long interest rates will stay near zero. The economy seeks to emerge from coronavirus crisis. It doesn't look like the Fed will raise interest rates beyond 0% until well past the pandemic, which we think might be around 2023. Wow. Said Jim Caron, head of the global macro strategies at Morgan Stanley Investment Management. The market is pricing at a recovery that starts in quarter three, but there's wide variability and we need the Fed to give its input. While no one is expecting any change to its benchmark interest rate, the Fed could potentially adjust the rate on bank reserves and announce asset purchases targeted towards driving down longer-term rates. Another big market catalyst will be a reading on U.S. gross domestic policy at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Economists surveyed by Dow Jones forecast the U.S. economy shrank by 3.5% in the first quarter as the pandemic disrupted economic activities. The U.S. GDP grew by 2.1% in the fourth quarter. Stocks fell slightly on Tuesday as a slide in mega-cap tech shares put pressure on the broader market. The S&P 500 ended the day 0.5% lower, but the equity benchmark is still up more than 10% this month alone. Trump said in a press conference Tuesday the U.S. will very soon run 5 million coronavirus tests per day. The number of most tests the country has run was 314,182 on April 22nd, according to the COVID Tracking Project. The lack of testing remains an obstacle for many states anxious to reopen for business. So, they of course have a little bit more negative view on what's going on here, but For the most part, it does seem like it's going to be positive. It's at least, ticking in the right direction. It's not just crashing down like we saw before. And I mean, like I said, we are not anywhere close to the lowest point that we were when this started, and we're not anywhere close to the highest point of the previous administration. So we will see. But I've got one more here that kind of points in the other direction. This is from CCN, which I found out. I looked into this and figured out what CCN was and why they actually might have a vested interest in the economy, or at least the value of the regular dollar crashing. I didn't realize this, but CCN is a cryptocurrency. I believe it's Crypto Coin News is what it's called, but it's a cryptocurrency-based news site. Dow futures in denial as smart money awaits next stock market crash. They don't give me Ben Brown. There it is. This is from Ben Brown. The U.S. stock market keeps pushing higher, but smart money investors are sitting this rally out. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures climbed 200 points on Wednesday, pointing to a strong open on Wall Street. The world's richest investors aren't taking the bait. A majority of high net worth investors are waiting for this rally to cool off before dipping a toe back in the market, according to a new UBS Global Wealth survey. The survey polled more than 4,000 investors and business owners with at least $1 million in investable assets. It's a strong signal that the smart money sees a long and difficult return to normal for the economy. Dow futures contracts point to a strong bounce at the open on Wednesday. The stock market was buoyed by an optimistic earnings report from Google's parent company, Apple. No, Apple's not Google's parent company. Alphabet is. And hopes for a dovish statement from the Federal Reserve later today. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures climbed overnight. S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ composites were up 0.99% and 1.2% respectively. The bounce back up from March lows has many analysts screaming bear market rally, in other words, a short-term bump before the market resumes its downward slide. Stephen Glass of Pengana International Fund is firmly in this camp, citing an earnings apocalypse and a lack of corporate buyback to support the market. Even if CNBC's stock market cheerleader Jim Cramer thinks the market might be getting ahead of itself. There are concerns that the stock market is detached from the true economic reality. Indeed, GDP is expected to contract 30% next quarter, and while states are reopening, there's no guarantee that consumer confidence comes back. It seems the wealthy investors agree with the bear market rally narrative. Cash positioning among this group is at its highest level since 9/11. In other words, investors are sitting on the sidelines waiting for a better entry point. Close to $4.7 trillion is now parked in market funds, outstripping 2009 levels. There are other signs of caution in the market, too. Long-term equity futures are uncharacteristically short biased, and hedge funds have dialed down their leverage significantly. It's not all bad, though. This enormous cash buffer sitting on the sidelines means smart investors are ready to pounce, and that should limit the downside if there is another fall. So, yeah, they're saying that this is all going to crash back down, and we're going to go back down to 3,000 Dow and 1,000 S&P 500 and doom and gloom and all this other stuff that's going on here. And I don't think it's going to do that. It's going to waver a little bit, I think, but I don't think that it's going to crash that much. I don't think we're going to get back to the 29,000 by the end of the year, but I think we're going to see a steady increase again as we continue to go forward and people continue to go out and feed the markets, essentially. And like I said, even if we start doing some back alley economy here, that's going to fuel things too. So that's going to be other stuff to watch. All right. Here is breaking news from the Daily Wire from Ryan Savadra. Homicide unit investigating death of the man who drank fish tank cleaner, report says. A homicide unit is reportedly investigating the death of a man who allegedly drank fish tank cleaner last month along with his wife in an attempt to protect themselves from the coronavirus. The Mesa City Police Department's Homicide Division is investigating the death of Gary Linnaeus, the Arizona man whose wife served him a soda mixed with fish tank cleaner in what she claimed was a bid to fend off the coronavirus, the Free Beacon's Alana Goodman reported. A detective handling the case confirmed the investigation to the Washington Free Beacon on Tuesday after requesting a recording of the Free Beacon's interviews with Lanius' wife, Wanda. Gary Lanius, 68, died last month after he and his wife Wanda, 61, supposedly consumed fish tank cleaner because it contained chloroquine, phosphate, a substance they said they had heard President Donald Trump tout as a treatment for the coronavirus. The news comes after Goodman had published a series of reports at the Free Beacon about the couple. Goodman interviewed friends of Lanius who described him as an intelligent, level-headed engineer who was not prone to impulsive and reckless behavior like drinking fish tank cleaner. Yeah, that would be impulsive, wouldn't it? One of his close friends told Goodman, "What bothers me about this is that Gary was a very intelligent man, a retired mechanical engineer who designed systems for John Deere in Waterloo, Iowa, and I really can't see that scenario where Gary would say, 'Yes, please, I would love to drink me some of that koi fish tank cleaner.' It just doesn't make any sense." The friend continued, I would like people to know that Gary was not the fool that some of the media stories and comments are depicting him to be. I really don't think Gary knew what he was taking." Another friend described the marriage as troubled, saying that Wanda would constantly berate Gary in public. Everyone was embarrassed for him, but outwardly did not seem to care much. The friend added, "In our opinion, the marriage was seen outwardly to be as one-sided as a marriage possibly could be. Gary worshipped Wanda." So that'll be interesting to see. And what I'm most interested in is if the media, the mainstream media, breathlessly covers this the way that they did when he drank the fish tank cleaner, when it was something they could pin on Trump. That'll be interesting to watch. I would love to see that, and I'm really looking forward to it. I don't think they're going to. That's part of the reason I added Daily Wire to my daily lineup for the day, because they report on things that the mainstreams don't. But yeah, that would be interesting to see. All right, moving on. Illinois Senator Plummer, coronavirus bailout. Don't waste federal funds on my state's bankrupt system. This is an opinion piece from Fox News from State Senator Jason Plummer. Americans broadly support federal relief for business and workers, but they don't want to bail out failed business models and corporate corruption. So how would they feel about bailing out the governance failures on America's most corrupted state? Welcome to Illinois, America's shrinking state, home to 1,000 public corruption convictions in the last 20 years. Our acquisitive state politicians want over $40 billion from other states in a brazen attempt to spread the Illinois model beyond our borders. My Democratic state Senate colleagues garnered national attention with a letter containing this audacious request. Governor J.B. Pritzker has separately requested billions in federal funds. The message from Illinois' elected leaders is crystal clear. No humility, no regrets, no acknowledgement of failures, and no strings attached. American taxpayers bail us out. Don't let it happen. Federal dollars should not prop up Illinois' failed system. Sober-minded Illinoisans have long warned about the next economic wind would topple our financial house of cards. However, our leaders had other priorities. Pritzker took to the lectern for his 2020 State of the State address, declaring Illinois strong and dismissing fiscal realists as carnival barkers or doomsayers, receiving thunderous approval from his allies. Now the entire nation knows we're broke, and these same politicians are pleading for a bailout. For decades, Illinois has chosen the fiscally irresponsible path. Increased benefits, skipped pension payments, borrowing, taxing, spending, and pretending. Moody's pegs our state pension shortfall at $241 billion. WirePoints.com adds in local liabilities for total debt of $430 billion, an insurmountable amount. And that's not even close to what California owes the federal government. Just saying. Illinois' present problems are not merely inherited, nor a failure to tax and spend enough. Our last two budgets set state spending records, while taxation brought in record receipts. Yet Illinois failed to aggressively pay down debt or plan for a rainy day. Now, in the depths of this crisis, Pritzker is promoting another income tax increase on hard-pressed Illinoisans. Just as this tax increase wouldn't be enough, a massive federal bailout wouldn't satiate the reckless spending habits of Illinois' political class. We were once the blessed economic engine of the Midwest, but our debts have turned us into a zombie state, lagging in every meaningful financial metric, economic statistics, and population trend. Here's the harsh truth. The land of Lincoln is no longer a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Illinois' financial collapse reveals our government's moral bankruptcy. Readers from other states likely assume that the state governments prioritize the health, welfare, safety, and property of our residents, but not in Illinois, where the top priority is to provide lifetime platinum benefits for politicians and many of their political allies. Interesting side note to this, and we're going to move on after this, but interesting side note to that is that the state of Illinois does not put the life, liberty, health, welfare, safety, and property of the residents of its state above all else. They do that for the people of the city of Chicago, especially the elite people of the city of Chicago and the surrounding suburbs. Most of your government in Illinois forgets the fact that there's anything downstate of Chicago, that there's anything south of Lake Michigan. That's something to keep in mind as they go to this. I called Illinois, because I was downstate last summer, I called it the... As soon as we got out of the Chicago Metro, I looked over at my girlfriend and I said, we are now entering high-tax Missouri. Because that's essentially what it is. Illinois is that little stretch that goes from Rockford to Chicago, and then everything else is high-tax Missouri. So, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if the federal government's going to bail them out at this point, but excuse me, it'll be interesting to watch. Sorry about that. That one kind of snuck up on me. Now, from the other side of things, South Dakota Governor Noem unveils back-to-normal plan, says it places power in the hands of the people. This is from Dom Colicchio. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem on Tuesday mapped out a plan for getting the state back to normal amid the coronavirus outbreak, a plan that she said emphasizes personal responsibility instead of government orders. Later, the Republican governor, who drew criticism from Democrats and others for never issuing a statewide stay-at-home order, talked about her plan during an appearance on Fox News' Hannity. In South Dakota, we didn't close any businesses, Noem told host Sean Hannity. We didn't do shelter in place. Noem previously stated that she opposed government-ordered safety measures because they infringed on citizens' personal freedoms. Yes. And preferred informing the public so they could decide for themselves whether to follow recommendations or not. I trusted my people and they trusted me to make decisions that were best for us, and they've just done an absolutely fantastic job, Noem told Hannity. That's why my plan is not a reopening plan, it's a back-to-normal plan. We're working our way back towards getting the life in South Dakota that we love again, and I'm not giving them guidance to do that. Earlier in the day, Noem said her back-to-normal plan would kick in when South Dakota achieves several specific criteria, according to the Argus Leader newspaper in Sioux Falls. According to the plan, the state must show a downward trajectory of coronavirus cases for 14 days, with no clusters posing a risk to the public, and must have adequate hospital capacity to treat all patients, not just those with the virus. We must have an adequate supply of personal protective equipment and a testing program for medical staff, and state officials must be able to rapidly investigate the contained cases of the virus. I'm not announcing any new government programs, more red tape, more prescriptive phases, or tight controls, Noem said, according to the Argus Leader. That is not the South Dakota. Rather, the plan that I'm unveiling today puts the power in the hands of the people where it belongs. Hannity asked Noem how South Dakota managed to keep businesses such as restaurants operating despite the presence of the virus within the state's borders. We encouraged them to have less than 10 people in their dining rooms, in their facilities, and focus on delivery and carry-out, Noem responded. What we've told them today, when I unveiled my back-to-normal plan, was that I asked them to ensure physical distancing within their facilities to make sure they had a rigorous sanitation and cleanliness protocol that they followed, and I think that our folks in South Dakota are ready to do that. They don't mind taking extra measures and steps if we're giving them the opportunity to look at their specific situation and make adjustments that use common sense, Noem added. I think that's the difference in the example that our people have set, and I'm proud of them. So, they're staying open, and they're getting the plan out to make sure that they can stay open no matter what. But, yeah, it's an individual responsibility thing, and I know that people in large groups can be very, very dumb, but For the most part, it is, you know the facts. You know that if you go out to something, you could get this. So, I mean, other than yesterday, I don't think I've had a day where I haven't left the house. I've been out doing things. I've been out taking hikes and various other things, and I've been out in the world, and I haven't, as far as I know, I haven't got sick. I haven't got the COVID. I haven't given it to anybody else. But once again, you do the right thing. You stand a certain distance away from people. You don't crowd people. You don't stand in a line that's 20 people long that's only like 10 feet long. You can do this without the government forcing you to do it. And it looks like Kristi Noem has figured that out. We've got another one here from Daily Wire. Trump uses Defense Production Act to protect America's food supply chain. This is also from Ryan Saavedra. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Tuesday evening to protect America's food supply chain from disruption caused by the coronavirus pandemic, which originated in China. It's important that processors of beef, pork, poultry, meat and poultry, in the food supply chain continue operating and fulfilling orders to ensure a continued supply of protein for Americans, the order stated. However, outbreaks of COVID-19 among workers at some processing facilities have led to the reduction in some of those facilities' production capacity. In addition, recent actions in some states have led to the complete closure of some of the largest, best, greatest processing facilities. The executive order highlighted how closing facilities in the national meat and poultry supply chain undermine critical infrastructure, noting that any unnecessary closures can quickly have a large effect on the food supply chain. They can, and like I said, we did plan for a rainy day on this, and we do have large amounts of protein in cold storage just in case something like this happened, but it would be nice if we didn't have to dip into our reserves so quickly. If we could keep the supply chains open so we could keep those reserves in there for a rainy day. That would be very nice, and I would rather see that than see the federal government step in to force us to keep the supply chains open. The action comes after the administration had private conversations with executives of major meat processing companies to formulate a plan on how to combat and preempt food shortages. Representative Thomas Massie warned on Sunday about upcoming food shortages as he urged the federal government to take action to stop it. Other members of Congress own cattle, but only a few of us raise cattle, Massie wrote in a Twitter thread. I fix the fences, feed the hay, castrate bulls, fertilize fields, put tags on their ears, move them between pastures, wean calves. Food shortages are coming. USDA needs to acknowledge and respond now. So we will see what happens with that. I would love to sit down and read the executive order from front to back here. I'm just finding out about this morning because I spent most yesterday in a NyQuil-induced coma, but I'm just finding out about this morning, and I'd love to find more details on this and what this means. But once again, the federal government is stepping in and forcing the hands of people that should be able to do this on their own. All right, next up, from CNN. U.S. could be in for a bad fall and a bad winter if it's unprepared for a second wave of the coronavirus, Fauci warns. This is from Christina Maxoris over at CNN. A second round of coronavirus is inevitable, the nation's leading epidemiologist says. It's just how bad it is will depend on the progress the U.S. makes in the coming months. If by that time we have to put in place all the countermeasures that you need to address this, we should do reasonably well, Dr. Fauci said. If we don't do that successfully, we could be in for a bad fall and a bad winter. If states begin lifting restrictions too early, Fauci says the country could see a rebound of the virus that could get us back in the same boat if we were a few weeks ago, adding that the country could see many more deaths than are currently predicted. So far, more than 1 million Americans have been infected and at least 58,355 have died. A leading model predicts more than 72,000 people will die in the U.S. by early August. Being able to test for the virus, track cases, and isolate every infected American will be key factors in ensuring that second wave isn't as deadly, Fauci says. The U.S. continues to lag behind in testing, according to a new report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The nation has performed 16.4 tests per 1,000 people. According to the report, Spain and Italy, with the second and third highest number of cases after the U.S., have conducted 22.3 and 29.7 tests per 1,000 people, respectively. Fauci says the federal government needs to provide strategic guidance and assistance to help states up their numbers of conducted tests. He hopes he can guarantee everyone who needs a test can get one by the end of May or early June. I wonder what Midget B over on the Discord server has to say about that. He is staunchly against the test in every way possible. To a point that it's almost a little bit entertaining, but I do see some of the points that he has to go on there. So I wonder what he thinks about all of this. I'll have to ask him after the show. The truth is, we're going in the right direction, he said, but we need to continue to partner in a very active, collaborative way with the states. We need to help them the same way they need to help or to do the execution. So, of course, well, I wonder now if the news reports are going to say that Fauci is against Trump again because he's saying something about keeping testing and keeping closed, and he's the good guy again. So, yeah, we're going to have the fight again. It's wrestling theory. If you haven't checked out the R-Rated Conservative or asked about his wrestling theory, when he was on Stephen Ignoramus' show the last time, they talked about it, and I think if he comes on my show again in the near future, he and I are going to talk about it as well. But it's an interesting theory, and I'm gonna have him on Edgeworld sometime in the near future and see if he can explain it to the world again, because it's really spot on, to be completely honest. I'm gonna send that out. From the Daily Wire, now we've got one that's actually a little bit more entertaining. We got a couple here that are just kind of entertainment pieces, but still important here. But I saw this title and I just thought it was hilarious. Governor apologizes to cookie accused of using joke name on unemployment application. This is from Eric Quintanar over at the Daily Wire. Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky has apologized to a Kentucky cook he falsely accused of applying for unemployment with a joke name. The governor made the original remarks in a segment of Monday's coronavirus press conference, during which he mentioned that the state was slow to process unemployment claims. I owe somebody an apology tonight, the governor, according to a video segment posted by Recount. Last night I spent a little bit of time talking about fraudulent claims holding up. I mentioned an individual that had filed in the name of Tupac Shakur. I didn't know, and it's my fault, that we have a Kentuckian who goes by Malik, whose name is Tupac Shakur, said Beshear, who was unaware his constituent shared the name of the deceased 90s rapper. At the time, he accused him of slowing everything down. I talked to him on the phone today and I apologized. I told him how it happened, but I owned it. It's my fault. He was gracious, and I said I'm sorry if I embarrassed him and caused him any attention he didn't want. He was very kind. He ended the call, God bless, and we're going to make sure we resolve his claim. During a coronavirus press conference on Monday, the governor used Tupac Shakur as an example of bad apples, making the unemployment review process slower, and as such causing delays for the rest of the people waiting, according to remarks captured by the Lexington Herald Reader. So, no word on how many people are getting apologies who are named Mickey Mouse. Oh wait, no, that would just be for the recall petition that circled around Scott Walker a few years ago. And there were people out there that were just signing Mickey Mouse on the thing to make sure that they got the right amount of signatures for everything. All right. Now for the title card of the day, and I will admit, first off, I did not come up with the title of this episode. I stole this from Steffi Cole. If you're not following Steffi Cole over on Twitter, you absolutely should. She is a ray of sunshine in these dark times. Absolutely. Probably one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter. Joe Biden calls for more economic intercourse around the world. This is from Morgan Phillips over at Fox News. Democratic frontrunner Joe Biden turned heads on Monday night when, in a CBS Miami interview, he suggested the U.S. needs more economic intercourse around the world. I would get much more engaged in the world. We can't step back, Biden said. If, in fact, for example, we solve the problem of the United States of America, and you don't solve it in other parts of the world, you know what's going to happen. You're going to have travel bans. You're going to not be able to do have economic intercourse around the world, Biden continued. When it's America first, it's America alone. When asked if he was vulnerable because of his son Hunter's business dealings in China, he said he didn't believe so at all. He said his son's business dealings have nothing to do with him and claimed that President Trump owes millions of dollars to the Bank of China, a since debunked claim. When you talk about business dealings, look at the business dealings the president has with China. He owes apparently millions of dollars to the Bank of China, said Biden. I mean, this is all about whether or not we're going to be able to coexist with the largest and biggest population in the world to make sure we are the ones to set the standards, he continued. On Friday, Politico published a story claiming the president owes millions to the Bank of China, adding the loan is due soon. On Monday, Politico released an editor's note saying the new reporting and information have led us to update and correct the article after publication. The article cited a nearly $1 billion refinancing deal from several banks, including the Bank of China struck in 2012, with a New York City real estate venture in which the Trump Organization has a substantial minority interest. Politico wrote, "We reported that President Trump, through the Trump Organization, owes the Chinese state-owned bank tens of millions of dollars on a loan that comes due in 2022. The editor's note said it received a statement from the Bank of China USA, which the publication had not contacted beforehand, that the bank had sold off its debt shortly after the 2012 deal. A spokeswoman said the bank has no current financial interest in any Trump Organization properties. I love it when they have to issue a correction, but first and foremost, I think Biden needs to remember that part of the reason that he's having problems in the race right now and the fact that the media is rushing to cover him up right now is the fact that he took a little bit too much time having some economic intercourse against a wall in a dark alley somewhere when one of his staffers went to bring him a duffel bag. I think that was just a poor choice of words, but, I mean, it's Biden. When does he have a good choice of words? All right, now for the news of the day. Ross Perot is spinning in his grave so fast that, as Styx Hexenhammer likes to say, we can attach a dynamo to him and get green energy for the rest of our lives. Justin Amash announces Presidential Exploratory Committee, from Haley Bird over at CNN. Justin Amash, a Republican-turned-independent congressman from Michigan, announced Tuesday that he's launching an exploratory committee for a long-shot presidential bid as a libertarian. Amash launched a website announcing he has formed an exploratory committee for a presidential campaign. Amash, I love what you did. I love what you stand for. I love what you do for Michigan, and I love what you're doing for libertarian ideals. But I'm going to save you a fuck ton of money right now on your exploratory committee. Not this year, you moron. So my problem with Amash running is not the fact that I wouldn't like to see Amash be the president. I would. But we're in the middle of a pandemic, and like Britt from Freckles and Britt told us way back when Amash was first talking about this, people are going to go with the devil that they know. They're going to stick with the political parties that they know, and they're going to stick probably with Trump just because of the fact that they know what they're going to get out of it. They're not going to take a chance on a long shot like Amash. But the other thing with Amash, and this is what I pointed out for him, Amash has been a libertarian or an independent for exactly 5 seconds. Exactly. He's not even run a race at this point under his libertarian ticket. Therefore, we have no idea if he can hold on to a seat if the people like him or they like the GOP. And I think before he goes and runs for president, we need to figure that out. So go on, run, try and keep your seat as independent without the GOP backing you. That would be my advice for you right now. And then launch your bid for 2024. That's what I would do if I was Justin Amash. Besides, you've got people like Adam Kokesh who are leading the race right now, and Jacob Hornberger. We've got so many other people that are flooding that field right now. Even some of the people that I know some people call joke candidates are flooding that field right now. So yeah, Justin, just sit back, run your race, run your next couple races, see if you can win as a representative in 2022 and 2024. But then also run for the presidency in 2024. That would be my advice to you. Amash launched a website announcing he has formed an... I read that one already. Americans are ready for practical approaches based in humility and trust of the people, he said in his announcement. We're ready for a presidency that will restore respect for our Constitution and bring people together. I'm excited and honored to be taking these first steps towards serving Americans of every background as president. His potential entry into the race comes after more than a year of deliberation. In recent days, it's become more evident that Amash was likely to launch a campaign for the presidency. Earlier this month, he said he was looking closely at a bid, and 2 weeks ago he said in a statement that he stopped actively campaigning for his House seat in mid-February, while he considered jumping into the presidential race. He was facing a tough re-election in Michigan's 3rd District. National Republicans were eager to defeat him, and several Republicans have been running for the seat. If he is to run in the general election for president, Amash will have to win the Libertarian Party's nomination at their convention in Austin, Texas, which is currently set for the end of May. That timing could change depending on the coronavirus pandemic. While it is very unlikely that a third-party candidate would win the presidency, a high-profile third-party contender has the potential to reshape the race. In 2016, Libertarian presidential nominee Gary Johnson, a former governor of New Mexico, Republican, was on the ballot in every state and won a little over 3% of the national vote. Whether a strong Amash showing on Election Day could hurt the Republican candidate or the Democratic candidate more remains unclear. President Trump has continually earned high approval ratings among the overwhelming majority of self-identified Republicans throughout his presidency, but Amash could win support among traditionally Republican or conservative voters who are dissatisfied with Trump. He could also appeal to progressive voters who are unhappy with Joe Biden's candidacy and agree with Amash on issues like civil liberties and foreign policy. Amash was first elected to represent Michigan's 3rd Congressional District in the 2010 Tea Party wave. A traditional libertarian, he stood out from many of his House Republican colleagues to begin with, opposing expansive federal surveillance powers and American intervention abroad. Amash, buddy, there's no way. You're going to lose your representative seat, first off, because you're not running for it anymore. And furthermore, this is just a bid for attention at this point. And I like Justin Amash, and I still will come out and say that this is just a bid for attention. So, we'll see what happens. That'll be interesting to watch. Because he's higher profile. I mean, like, a lot of the Libertarian candidates, a lot of people in the country don't know who they are until they get to the ticket. I didn't know who Gary Johnson was until he shed his GOP colors and that was the other citation that I made with Justin Amash, was Gary Johnson was a Republican until he was a Libertarian for exactly 5 seconds while he ran for president. So, and furthermore, why don't we get more Libertarians into some of these House seats rather than go straight for the presidency every time? Change the makeup of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Then take the presidency. All right. Next one. From the Daily Wire, Stacey Abrams echoes Biden campaign talking points to attack rape accuser Tara Reade. This is from Ryan Saavedra. Far-left Democrat Stacey Abrams echoed talking points from the Biden campaign. Yeah, she's running for a VP pick. During a CNN interview on Tuesday to assert that the woman who is accusing the Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden of rape is not telling the truth. Abrams, who was reportedly pushing Democrats behind the scenes to tell Biden that he should select her to be his pick for vice president, told CNN host Don Lemon, who himself has been accused of sexually charged assault, that she believes that women should be heard and listened to, but those allegations have to be investigated by credible sources. It's a meme by this point, but Brett Kavanaugh. The New York Times did a deep investigation and they found that the accusation was not credible. Abrams falsely claimed, "I believe Joe Biden. I know Joe Biden and I think he's telling the truth, and this did not happen." The New York Times report did not find that the accusation was not credible. Furthermore, Abrams' remark that the allegation did not happen is a verbatim talking point that was reportedly pushed out by the Biden campaign to Democrats who are allies of Biden, BuzzFeed News reported. As BuzzFeed notes, one of the talking points that came from the Biden campaign stated, Biden believes that all women have the right to be heard and to have their claims thoroughly reviewed. In this case, a thorough review by the New York Times has led to the truth the incident did not happen. The credibility of the New York Times report was significantly damaged when the leftist newspaper appeared to admit that it allowed the Biden campaign to influence its reporting. Since the New York Times report came out, a 1993 video clip from CNN's Larry King Live and additional reporting from Business Insider has bolstered Reid's claims against Biden. Later in the CNN interview on Tuesday night, Lemon asked Abrams, in 2018, you tweeted it was shameful that Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination was being rushed forward, and survivors of violence like Christine Blasey Ford deserve to have their voices heard. Are you applying a different standard now? Abrams tweeted, a Supreme Court hearing is a job interview for one of the most critical roles in our democracy. If there's even a hint of impropriety, let alone the credible allegations of a bravely brought forward by Dr. Ford, we should pause and thoroughly investigate them rather than rush forward. Not at all, Abrams claimed. I believe then and I believe now that women deserve to be heard because too often they're not. And Tara Reid deserved to have her story listened to and investigated. What was happening to Christine Blasey Ford was that there was no investigation, Abrams falsely claimed. There was a rush to move the conversation forward so that no investigation was conducted, and as I said, I believe that those allegations needed to be investigated, and I believe that the New York Times and subsequent reports support what the Biden campaign has said, and I believe Joe Biden. Yeah, so like I said, this is absolutely 100% saying whatever it's going to take to get that vice president nomination. She's got to have that power. Right? If Stacey Abrams gets the vice president nomination and Biden loses to Trump, does that mean that Stacey Abrams can spend the next 4 years saying she's the rightful vice president of the United States? Because, I mean, she's still the rightful governor of Georgia, even though Brian Kemp is the governor. All right, next one here from Fox News. Oh, I've got your ears off, so it's a good thing because I got video playing over at Fox News. Chris Matthews calls accusers' claim credible. I didn't argue about it, I didn't deny it, from Dom Colicchio. Chris Matthews, the former host of MSNBC's Hardball, who departed from the job in March after 20 years, said in a recent podcast interview that an accuser's claims against him were credible. I didn't argue about it, I didn't deny it, Matthews told Vanity Fair magazine's Inside the Hive. Matthews, 74, who resigned on the air amid allegations of sexist comments, plus a series of on-camera miscues, forced a stunned MSNBC colleague to take over the hosting duties in his absence, was responding to allegations made by Laura Bassett, a journalist who in February identified Matthews as the cable news host she had previously written about in 2017 without naming him. Bassett described Matthews' behavior toward her as gross and inappropriate and alleged that Matthews, while seated in a makeup chair next to her before a 2016 edition of his show, had said, "Why haven't I fallen in love with you yet?" Then turned to the makeup artist and said, "Keep putting makeup on her. I'll fall in love with her." In this week's podcast, Matthews confirmed the incident happened. I accepted the credibility of the complaint in the article, he said in what Vanity Fair claimed was his first interview since leaving MSNBC. I didn't want to challenge a person that made the complaint and wrote the article, of course, and that was highly justified. Basically, as I said, to repeat myself, it's inappropriate in a workplace to compliment somebody on their appearance, and this is it, in the makeup chair, and I did it. Matthews had also issued a mea culpa during his on-air farewell speech in March. Compliments on a woman's appearance that some men, including me, might have once done incorrectly thought were okay or not okay. Not then, and certainly not today, Matthews said at the time. And for making such comments in the past, I'm sorry. After Bassett identified Matthews publicly, numerous video clips of Matthews started to emerge on social media, showing him complimenting female colleagues on the air or making remarks about other women shown on screen. The targets of his remarks included CNN's Aaron Burnett and CBS News' Margaret Brennan, both of whom worked for CNBC at the time. So, he's not saying that it didn't happen, which, once again, I'm sure that it did at this point. I mean, he's 74 years old. It was a different time that he grew up in, but On the other side of that, of course, this all came after he went after Warren and Sanders on the air. So they had to shut him up in a hurry, and they found the ammunition to do so. But at 74, why the hell didn't he retire at the time? Alright, last one that I have here is the story that I skipped yesterday because I was falling asleep in my chair, and we were running out of time anyway, so this is from CNN Politics. Pentagon officially releases UFO videos. This is by Michael Conti. The Pentagon has officially released 3 short videos showing unidentified aerial phenomena that had previously been released by a private company. The video shows what appear to be unidentified flying objects rapidly moving while recorded by infrared cameras. 2 of the videos contain service members reacting in awe at how quickly the objects are moving. One voice speculates that it could be a drone. The Navy previously acknowledged the veracity of the videos in September of last year. They are officially releasing them now in order to clear up any misconceptions by the public on whether or not the footage that has been circulating was real, or whether or not there is more to the videos, according to Pentagon spokesperson Sue Goh. After a thorough review, the department has determined the authorized release of these unclassified videos does not reveal any sensitive capabilities or systems, said Goh in a statement, and does not impine or on any subsequent investigations of military airspace incursions by unidentified aerial phenomena. The Navy now has formal guidelines for how its pilots can report what they believe they have seen possible UFOs. The Navy videos were first released between December 2017 and March 2018 by To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, a company co-founded by former Blink-182 musician Tom DeLonge, and says that it studies information about unidentified aerial phenomena. In 2017, one of the pilots who saw the unidentified objects in 2004 told CNN that it moved in ways he couldn't explain. As I got close to it, it rapidly accelerated to the south and disappeared in less than 2 seconds, said retired U.S. Navy pilot David Fravor. This was extremely abrupt, like a ping pong ball bouncing off a wall. It would hit and then go the other way. The Pentagon has previously studied recordings of aerial encounters with unknown objects as part of a since-shuttered classified program that was launched at the behest of former Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. The program was launched in 2007 and ended in 2012, according to the Pentagon, because they assessed that there were higher priorities that needed funding. And we were in the middle of a recession at the time, too. Nevertheless, Luis Elizondo, the former head of the classified program, told CNN in 2017 that he personally believes there is strong, compelling evidence that we may not be alone. These aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of, Elizondo said of objects they researched. He says he resigned from the Defense Department in 2017 in protest over the secrecy surrounding the program and internal opposition to funding it. And the craziest thing about the way that we are sitting in politics right now in the world and everything else is that with everybody being in lockdown, that would be the perfect time for some sort of alien conspiracy theory to come up. But they're coming out and releasing this and nobody's paying attention to it. We are so concerned with whether or not we open our country back up or stay closed from now until forever that nobody's paying attention to the fact that the Pentagon has released UFO footage. I haven't watched the video yet, but I'm going to later on today. But I'm interested to see what's going on with this and just what it is that they've been trying to hide for forever. And once again, I'm not 100% convinced that this is going to be aliens because I mean, there's technology being developed every day, and some of it's top secret and some of it isn't, but it's definitely worth a look. So that's going to be it for news today, and the last thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about something that I'm thankful for, and given the fact that tomorrow is my 36th birthday, which means I'm thankful for the fact that I have officially completed 36 years on this earth. And there have been several forces that have been working against me on this. You know, I smoked for 20 years, and I've been pretty open about that. That's why I've got a little bit of lingering cough there. And I've struggled with depression for most of my adult life at this point. And there were external factors that went along with that as well, along with some internal factors. But it's been working against me for 36 years. I was actually planning on having a fundraiser this coming Saturday for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, a cause that I've held very near to me for the last few years. But given the fact that we just had a fundraiser for Freedom Scoop and everybody's furloughed right now, I'm going to push that off until later on in the summer. But I am thankful for the fact that I've had these 36 years to learn and to grow and to have my life shaped. I didn't, a lot of people will go their entire lives living in just one place. I've actually had the opportunity to live in two very distinct regions of the country and to learn about the societies that they have in each of those places. I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful for the experience that I've had through the life, for the people that I've met, for the people who've been in my life and who continue to be in my life, even on a minor point. There are some people that I've lost touch with over the years, but I could still reach out to. I've got a friend that lives out east, and she is a health and wellness. I wouldn't say expert. She hasn't gone to school for it, but she knows well more about health and wellness than I ever will. And just the other day, I turned to her for some diet advice to try and trim this off here because this is causing me a little bit of other complications throughout life. So to try and trim some of this off here, I turned to her, and right away I got answers and I got good advice from it. It wasn't just, why are you just talking to me now? I've met some very good people around this country and around the world. And my audience is no exception. You guys are very good people, and I'm thankful for you here. But mostly today, I'm thankful for the 36 years that I've completed on this earth. And we will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary, or we will be back here later on tonight with Ed's World Gaming, because if I called in sick to work, I'm not going to play video games for you guys on stream. So that's why we didn't do it last night. We're going to do it tonight. We're going to play some more Lonesome Road over in Fallout New Vegas. And I hope to see you all there. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a lot of fun. I always love coming and talking back and forth with the live chat while we're playing video games. So it'll be a lot of fun. Otherwise, we will be back here tomorrow with more news because the crazy just isn't going to stop people. So we will see what happens there. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.